Welcome, Mr. Denome, and welcome to this crypto update. Now, today's video is very interesting because the fundamentals of the crypto market have changed to be more bullish. But in the short term, there is still the danger because on September 1st, Donald Trump's DeFi project, essentially the central bank of crypto, the governance token for that project will become tradable, and that will most likely be a sell the news event. So even though fundamentals are bullish, suddenly because of the rate cuts, we still have the sell the news event 1 week from now. And I told you guys exactly that this will happen, that they will want to try to suck in retail investor capital before the launch of their token. And that's basically gonna happen this week. And you can expect a lot of bull posts throughout the week. So we could still see a bounce to the upside. So last week I showed you guys a couple of technical analysis, and what was interesting about those is that both scenarios already basically played out that I thought would play out over the last couple of weeks, over the next 2 weeks. It basically happened over 1 weekend. So let me show that on the chart first, and let me show you the full technical analysis for this update first this time, because it's going to be a little bit lengthier video, so many new updates are coming. But all in all, last week I told you guys that it's likely that Bitcoin will basically go to 110k. There's a liquidation zone here, then pump to 120k towards basically September. And what happened instead is that Bitcoin immediately went to 117k. Ethereum went to all-time highs like I expected, but then Bitcoin actually dumped now to 110k, to the liquidation zone that I told you guys. So this week I would not be surprised if Bitcoin actually goes to 120k before the launch of the WLFI token, because the liquidation zone has now been tagged. And most liquidations are now at 120k. And we have this bullish divergence here on the RSI, higher low on the RSI, lower low on the price, a bullish divergence. But then the other drawing that I made you guys is that if instead of the price action being an inverse head and shoulders here, the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, what if this is a rising wedge and we have fallen out of it? It's likely that we go to the trend line here, and I told you guys that it's likely we go to 120k for that reason, and then we dump from there. And this is still in play, and we already tagged the trend line here. So it was quite interesting to see over the weekend just massive volatility, retail investors and some old whales activating, and now we have already dumped to the downside and tagged the 110k. So this week, because of all of the reasons why the big boys want to pump the markets to the upside, suck in retail capital, I think we might actually still go to 120k this week, despite me saying that most likely it's going to be a sell the news event. So this week I do believe that smart capital will sit on the sidelines this week and next week. And after next week, after the launch, after the craziness of the launch, some smart money will come back, and then we will see if the markets will actually be bullish or not. So the next couple of weeks are going to be volatile, crazy, and it's going to be difficult to predict the markets, because I know the big boys have other plans than I have, and they want to suck in as much capital as possible, obviously, and most likely at least some of the smart capital will want to exit this market as well this week before the craziness from the launch next week. But anyway, this is basically my idea as of now, that the 110k liquidation zone got tagged, and now we actually go to the upside. But I would not be surprised if this actually starts breaking down. But I believe smart capital wants to make sure that this holds, so that the inverse head and shoulders, this narrative actually still plays out before, or at least until the WLFI token launches. So there's incentive for them to maintain this price level here for this week. So that's basically the reasoning why I believe we go to 120k. But if we go below it, then we basically go into bear territory, and the inverse head and shoulders will get invalidated on the chart, and we might go actually lower to the lower liquidation zones here. But let me show you the big update from the stock markets, and that comes from the stock market being at all-time highs. So when we take a look at the valuation of the stock market and we look at the price to earnings ratios, the stock market has never been as high as now. We look at 1999, 1965, even the Great Depression, 1929, the stock market is now at a higher level than ever before, looking at the price to earnings ratios. But still, what the Federal Reserve is now doing is, instead of them keeping the rates higher, like I thought they actually might, the market started to expect massive rate cuts because of Donald Trump's intervention. And now the Federal Reserve has basically caved to Donald Trump. So previously they had an inflation target of 2%, and now they are basically scratching that. So in a speech on Friday, after my update video, Jerome Powell came out and now basically said that they are shifting the balance of risks, and this may warrant adjusting our policy stance. So most likely they will cut interest rates in September. And Odysee letter had a great thread here why this is actually fundamentally bullish for crypto. So let me show you why. And that actually has to do with Federal Reserve's dual mandate. So yes, Federal Reserve is in charge of keeping inflation low, but they have a dual mandate to also keep unemployment low as well. So employment high, inflation low. That is basically their plan here. And since 2021, they have only focused on trying to curb down inflation, but they haven't focused on the unemployment rate. And now, when we take a look at the unemployment data, you can see basically from 2023, we have seen the unemployment rise and employment raise in the flip side, obviously going down. And this is not good for the markets. And now, because of this data, at least they're arguing that they will cut interest rates. And this means when we look at the data before, whenever the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates within 2% of all-time highs, then the S&P 500 index actually loves it. And in 20 times out of 20 times, that meant a 14% increase in S&P 500 over the following 12 months. And asset owners will party like it's 2021 when we got the helicopter capital. So what Odysee letter is basically saying here is that the odds are basically 100% that the markets will actually pump higher from here, despite we're already at all-time highs. And if Odysee letter is right, we might actually see a big altcoin season as well. Although most likely that nowadays means that most altcoins will not pump like crazy. It's just certain altcoins will do well and most altcoins will basically do nothing. That's what I expect altcoin season to look like now that we have too many altcoins in the market. But all in all, asset prices go up, and people who don't have assets, they will be left behind. That is basically the whole story in this thread here. They talk about Bitcoin, they talk about gold here, and you basically have to own assets. Otherwise, you are part of this wealth gap widening. So 1% of the asset holders, their values go up, while the bottom 50%, their holdings of assets basically stays stagnant. So if you want to be part of this, you have to own assets. So this is one of the narratives that will also drive retail investors to come to the market. So it might be that retail investors really have a chance to make a lot of money here, or it could be that we are now being trapped into basically FOMOing into crypto. So be careful on the markets. It might be bullish, But also keep in mind that most likely the WLFI token sale will be a sell-the news event, in my opinion, because that's usually what happens. But talking about WLFI, if you have held this token, if you bought the pre-sale 1 year ago, like I showed you in the channel here, you have to do something today, because your tokens will become tradable on September 1st. But in order for you to trade those tokens, you have to click a button. So I will show you how to do that, and I will talk about the details here. So WLFI launches on Ethereum mainnet. So the first thing you have to know is that if you are currently yield farming on Ethereum, or you have assets on Ethereum, consider taking them out of the Ethereum mainnet, because 87,000 people and more who want to buy the token will suddenly be all active on September 1st, and many people will want to try to sell, some people will want to buy, and the whole network will probably see massive surge in usage, and that will lead to higher gas prices. So if you want to avoid getting stuck on Ethereum and stuck on your assets, consider taking them out of Ethereum blockchain so that you can avoid those high gas fees when the launch actually happens on September 1st. That's the first point. The second point is that 20% of the pre-sale tokens will become tradable initially, and the remaining 80% will become tradable later down the line. So if, let's say, you have 100,000 WLFI tokens from the pre-sale, 20,000 of those tokens you can trade on day one, and 80,000 of those tokens you can trade later down the line. And we currently don't know when the remaining 80,000 or 80% will become tradable. The holders will obviously have a vote at some time in the future. I don't know how that will look like, but as of now, we don't have a timeline when the remaining 80% will become tradable. So 20% will become tradable, and also what will not be tradable is founders tokens, teams tokens, advisors tokens, and partners tokens. It is only the 87,000 investors who bought the pre-sale tokens that are currently able to trade the WLFI token on day one. And then they talk about the lockbox. So let's show you that. So what you have to do is, if you participated in the pre-sale, you have to come to their website, which looks like this, and make sure you use the official website, not a scam website, because most likely there will be scams on day one as well. And if you just click a link on X or something like that, you might actually end up in a scam place. So I will link the right address in the description of this video. But you come to this website here, and after I posted this video, most likely there will be a button here that will basically show a button for lockbox, and then you have to click that, agree to the terms, and then on September 1st, the lockbox will give you the 20% of the tokens, and your balance of WLFI tokens on your DeFi wallet will actually show 0 after you have done the lockbox activation, because the lockbox will then hold your tokens, but your wallet will have access to those tokens later when they become tradable. That's basically their idea here. And that's basically it. September 1st, 8 a.m. ET is the time when trading opens, and when everybody will try to claim their 20% of the token, sell it, do something, trade it, send it, I don't know what, but the network will most likely be clogged. So that's the update basically as a whole. And now, because only 20% will become tradable, the market cap of WLFI will probably be quite crazy. And what I believe most people will do is they will actually sell it, because they will still have access, even if they sell the whole 20%, they still have access to the remaining 80% down the line. So even if they sell it at a bad price and the price goes up 3x, most people will still be happy anyway, because they know that they still hold 80% of the tokens anyway. So might as well just dump it on whatever price they can get. So for that reason, I believe that the token might actually have a massive plummet on day one. But going into day one, or let's say like half a day later, there might actually be a massive relief rally, because then people will start to speculate like, okay, the fully diluted market cap is now gone down like 3x, 4x, something like that. So might as well just buy some tokens off the market now, speculate on the price, and that might actually lead to a move to the upside, and it goes up 100%, 200%, who knows how much. And then people sell it again, and massive volatility on first days, just huge swings across the board, and then it might settle towards the end of the week. So crazy times for this, but as it happens, like I told you in the before I told you anything else about the WLFI, it's smart to at least take your assets off Ethereum if you want to have access to sell those assets or do something else, not get stuck on the Ethereum blockchain. And because of that alone, I believe many people will want to actually take profits out of the table this week. And that is obviously not good. So anyway, that's the update there. Then we had an update from crypto.com that they will allow staked assets, CRO, Ethereum, and Solana to be used as collateral for margin trading. So this was the update here, and I was quite stoked that maybe they will allow liquid staked tokens to be used as collateral for margin trading for custody clients, which are institutions and high net worth individuals. But when I looked into the details of this, it seems like the staked assets have to be held in secure custody and most likely in the custody of crypto.com. Then I contacted the support and they basically confirmed that liquid staked tokens will not be able to be used as collateral. You have to use the staking service that crypto.com offers. So that is a little bit bad for me as an LDO holder, but this is still utility for Ethereum, and it's a good thing for Ethereum. So not the best news, but it's still pretty good news for at least Ethereum. More use cases, better yield, very nice. Then we have seen profit taking on chain. So a whale which held 152,000 Bitcoin worth $17 billion, they went ahead and basically market sold 24,000 Bitcoin valued at $3 billion today. So this was absolutely nuts. And the price of Bitcoin basically crashed $4,000 within matter of minutes. And then it went to the liquidation zone like I showed you earlier. So this is what happened here. Whale took massive profits off the table. Then we saw another whale who had 100,000 Bitcoin for 7 years. They are now dumping Bitcoin and buying Ethereum. So far in the last 5 days, they have deposited 22,700 Bitcoin valued almost $3 billion to Hyperliquid, which is a decentralized leverage exchange. They bought 500,000 Ethereum with the capital, and here are the wallets. You can track those transactions if you like to, but this update basically came on August 25th as well. So whales, some of them are taking profit, but some are moving up on the risk curve. So Ethereum definitely like this, and this is why Ethereum also went to all-time highs, back to the all-time highs, whereas Bitcoin only went up to $117,000 before it dumped. And now we have some updates from Chainlink. These are very nice updates overall. So they got an ISO 27001 compliance badge, and this means basically that they are compliant with information security. And I didn't look more into the details of the ISO standard other than it was information security, but probably that means that they have now access to institutions that they previously tried to get as customers, but they complained that they didn't have the ISO standard, but now they have the standard. So most likely they're now able to secure some new partnerships. And they immediately announced a partnership after that. So on August 24th, they announced the ISO compliance. August 25th, they announced a partnership with a $200 billion company called SBI Group, which is from Japan. And what they're going to do together is they're going to tokenize funds, real world assets, real estate assets, bonds, regulated stablecoins, and more. So a major adoption jump for Chainlink, major adoption jump also for Ethereum, because Chainlink is a token running on Ethereum or built on top of Ethereum. So both Chainlink and Ethereum, very good news for them for this. And obviously this is good for crypto adoption. If we see tokenized funds, real world assets running on blockchains, that will obviously be good for crypto adoption as a whole. So very nice news there. Then Michael Saylor posted that Bitcoin is on sale. Most likely he's going to make a Bitcoin purchase, announcing it today. I don't know how much, but most likely it's going to be quite a large amount, because last week they took off the security rails out of their investments. So most likely it's going to be a big purchase. But on the flip side, Metaplanet is now showing only a 103 Bitcoin purchase worth $12 million. So this is showing massive downturn in buying, because previously they were buying billions of dollars, then hundreds of millions of dollars, and now only tens of millions of dollars within one single week. It is still buying, but clearly the capital flows have diminished, and maybe they are now competing for the same clients. So now Metaplanet shows a small amount of purchase, so maybe Sailor and MicroStrategy will have a big purchase because they're competing for the same clients. So I don't know if that will be the case, but this is showing a slowdown, which I've talked about in previous updates as well. So that's the case. And then we have another update from a crypto treasury company from ETHZilla. They have now announced to buy $10 billion worth of Ethereum by selling their common stock and dumping on the stockholders. So I don't know how much of this will become reality, but $10 billion future purchase, that's at least the plan. So might be still bullish for crypto treasury companies, even though I believe that this will eventually lead into a bear market, and some of these crypto companies will go belly up, and then there will be huge fear which one will go down next, and people will run to the exit, and that will basically the bear market. But as of now, things still look good, and maybe they have access to more capital now that the Federal Reserve is basically committed to cutting interest rates as well. And then let's take a look at. I had the validator queue, but I may have actually closed down that, unfortunately. But the Ethereum staking validator queue was actually showing me an increase of Ethereum leaving Ethereum staking once again. So in my last update, I said that it had gone down, but the Ethereum staking queue has actually gone up again, which means that Ethereum stakers are currently running to the doors. So that is obviously not good, but the Ethereum ETFs are still getting a lot of capital in. So over the last couple of trading days, we have seen inflows of $300 million on average in the last couple of days. So that is still more capital flying into Ethereum. And also for Bitcoin ETFs, the capital flight out of the ETFs has actually slowed down. There will not currently be an update. I think my internet is currently having a blockage, but basically the amount of Bitcoin leaving the or capital leaving the Bitcoin ETFs has slowed down towards the end of the week. So this week I might not be surprised if we see institutional investors buying Bitcoin, but big whales, old whales, are selling Bitcoin and maybe other crypto assets as well. Interesting. Like at the same time, I'm battling to be between bullish and bearish, but ETFs are basically buying. It looks like this week. Then on BitcoinTreasuries.net, over the last 30 days, previously we saw an increase of 4% into the Bitcoin treasury companies, but now this has slowed down. It's only 2.2% increase over the last 30 days. And practically speaking, over the last 2 weeks, there has been no increase of Bitcoin into the Bitcoin treasury companies, which is obviously not what we want to see. This is a clear slowdown over the last couple of weeks. But when we take a look at entities holding Bitcoin, we have seen an increase over the last week. Last week, Monday, it was 294 companies. Friday, it was 300, and now it's 301. So we're still seeing more adoption of Bitcoin, even though the amount of Bitcoin in those entities is not growing as much as it was before. So that is the case in Bitcoin treasury companies. For Ethereum treasury companies, I don't really have any update here because the website has not updated, but we did see some purchases, on-chain verifications of purchases, but I think Sharplink bought 40,000 Ethereum since my last update, but it's not updated on this website, unfortunately. And then on sentiment.net, unfortunately, my internet currently has. Okay, now I got it. So the biggest update is this one here. So the supply of Bitcoin on exchange reserves, this has actually gone up, which means that some people are currently taking profits off the table. So old Bitcoin holders have started to sell once again, and they are sending their Bitcoin to exchanges, and that basically has led to Bitcoin going down in the short term, which is obviously not good. And then we take a look at the market cap of stablecoins. That has been flat basically for the last 10 days. So this, I hope, will start to trend to the upside once again, because when it goes flat or starts to go down, that is, in my opinion, bad for crypto. What we want to see is more stablecoins being running on blockchains, and that's basically the updates there. There's one more update. Actually, maybe this will still work. Let's see. No, it's not updating. Well, I will not talk about it then. But short-term fundamentals, Bitcoin liquidation heat map. We tagged the liquidation zone here at 110K. We now have a new liquidation zone basically stretching all the way to 109K down here. But the most of the liquidity is currently sitting right below 120K. So we could still go lower here, but likely, like I told you guys, big boys want to keep this price level. They want to defend the price level even though some are running for the exits, and they want to wait until the WLFI token launch, and then most likely the big boys will want to let the markets fall. So this week I would not be surprised if Bitcoin goes to 120K, takes out the liquidation zone, and then next week when the WLFI token launches, everything will look bullish. Retail investors come in, they suck the dumping, and then the markets most likely next week will start to go down. And then because of the fundamental change in Bitcoin and crypto markets, because of the Federal Reserve rate cuts and all these things, then I think markets will have a bounce back to the upside. So this week, I will not be surprised even, well, we could go down, but I kind of expect that the markets go up because the big boys want to prop the markets before the launch. And looking at the spot order book debts, what's important here is that we have a lot of buyers now activated once again. So looking at the spot order book debt within the 3% move of the current price point, currently there's delta of $120 million more limit buy orders than limit sell orders. So currently whales have a buy wall here. Doesn't mean that it will necessarily hold. It's not as strong as it was previously when it was here at $200 million. But still, we are currently seeing buyers basically entering the order books and wanting to snatch Bitcoin at these price levels. So there is that. And that's basically the update I had for you guys. So back to the charts here. I would not be surprised if we have a swing to 120K with Bitcoin, altcoins bullish this week. But keep in mind that some people will want to exit the markets because many people like myself are anticipating that the WLFI token launch will be sell the news event. And then once the dust settles on that one, then I believe people will come back to the markets here and they will buy back at a lower price or at a higher price. Doesn't matter where the price is then, because of the fundamental change in the Federal Reserve interest rates policy. The markets will eventually go back up once again. But this week, probably up. And it's important that this price level holds this 110K, because if that breaks, then the inverse head and shoulders has basically broken to the downside and we go down from there. So as long as we don't make a new low here, then I expect a 120K by the end of the week, and then everything will be bullish. WLFI token launches, and then they allow the markets to crash. That's my expectation at least. But that's the update for you guys today. Sorry that my internet broke. But that's it. And hope you got value out of this. See you on the next one, and bye bye.